So, is the South Florida real estate market crashing or is it booming? I mean, if you've glanced at the headlines lately, you've probably seen both arguments, right? It's confusing, it's contradictory, and it really begs the question, what is actually going on in one of the hottest real estate markets in the entire country? Well, in this explainer, we're going to unravel that puzzle. Okay, so where is all this confusion coming from? To get to the bottom of it, let's start with the story you're probably hearing the most often, the big market cool down. There's a whole lot of data out there that suggests the red-hot market we've all been watching is finally starting to feel the pressure from things like high interest rates and, general affordability issues. Let's start with a big one, the total dollar volume of sales across all of South Florida. In June, it fell 9% compared to last year. Now, that's not just a small dip. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in activity that has just vanished from the market. That's a huge signal of a pullback. Now, here's where the picture starts to get really interesting and kind of fractured. Miami-Dade is the clear outlier here. You see its prices are still ticking up. But then look at its neighbors, Broward and Palm Beach. Both of them saw their median prices actually fall. This tells us it's not one single market moving in lockstep anymore. Things are starting to break apart. And here's what makes that local slowdown even more significant. While the national real estate market saw sales rise in June, Miami's were still falling. So the region is clearly on a different and, frankly, a much cooler trajectory than the rest of the country. And if you want to feel the slowdown, just look at this number, 95. In a huge market like Palm Beach County, the median time a home sits on the market has jumped to 95 days. That's over 3 months. The days of listing on a Friday and sparking a weekend bidding war are, for many people, becoming a very distant memory. So the evidence seems pretty clear, doesn't it? Sales are down, prices are dropping in 2 of the 3 counties, and homes are just sitting there for longer. Case closed, right? The market's cooling off. But if that's the whole story, why are we still hearing all these reports about a South Florida real estate boom? This is where the story really gets complicated, because there's a really powerful counter-narrative happening at the exact same time. If you look under the surface of that general cooldown, you find these pockets of just extreme heat. Okay, check out this statistic. It's pretty staggering. Almost half, 49% of all newly built condos in South Florida were bought up by international buyers in the last year and a half. This is a massive, massive wave of global cash just flooding into the market, and it's completely bypassing the traditional American home buyer. So where is all this money coming from? Well, this chart makes it pretty clear. It's overwhelmingly from Latin America. We're talking about investors who are looking for a safe place to park their wealth because of inflation and political instability back home. For them, a Miami condo isn't just a vacation home, it's basically a financial safe deposit box. And this cash isn't just going into any old property. The very top of the market has absolutely exploded. Sales of homes over $10 million have jumped nearly 6-fold in just the last year. That's not a cool down, that is a gold rush for the ultra-wealthy. But get this, even the luxury market itself is divided. Just look at this crazy divergence from July. While the number of new luxury contracts actually plummeted in Miami-Dade, they surged over 35% in Palm Beach. This shows that even inside the boom, the heat isn't spread out evenly, that wealth is migrating north. And all of this brings us back to Miami-Dade and its kind of unique resilience. Despite that recent drop in luxury contracts, the county is on this incredible streak that's projected to hit 14 straight years of price appreciation by 2025. That's just an amazing run that really sets it apart from its neighbors. So here we are, back at the main puzzle. We've got falling sales volume and houses sitting on the market for months, and right alongside that, we have this huge flood of foreign cash and a 6-fold explosion in $10 million deals. How can both of these things be true in the same place at the same time? The answer is, it's not one market. The absolute key to understanding South Florida right now is to see it as 2 totally distinct markets. They're operating in parallel, but they're often playing by completely different rules of supply and demand. On one side, you've got what we can call the main market. This is for your regular buyer and seller. They're sensitive to mortgage rates, insurance costs, and all those affordability hurdles. This market is, without a doubt, cooling down. But on the other side, you've got the luxury and global market. This world is driven by cash, by wealth preservation, and global trends. And it's pretty much insulated from local interest rate hikes. In some parts of this market, it's still absolutely on fire. Let's look at a perfect, concrete example of this split in action. we're going to dive into Miami's condo sales for a second, because the data shows something completely counterintuitive that really proves this two-track system is real. You would assume that the shiny, new, fancy condos sell the fastest, right? Well, you'd be wrong. In Miami, it's the older condos, the ones over 30 years old, that are actually selling faster than the newer ones. Why? It's because those price-sensitive buyers in the main market are hunting for value, and they're finding it in these older buildings, which creates demand in a place you might least expect it. So understanding this division is really everything, because what all of this means for you, whether you're a buyer, a seller, or maybe you're just watching from the sidelines, it depends entirely on which of these two markets you're actually in. For buyers, this split is basically a map to find opportunity. In that main market, the slowdown is your friend. You can look for value in older properties or in areas with a ton of inventory, like Broward. That gives you negotiating power. But if you're shopping for a luxury spot in Palm Beach, you better be prepared for a fight. And for sellers, a one-size-fits-all strategy is just doomed to fail right now. Your approach has to be super specific. A luxury seller in Palm Beach, you're in a great position. But a luxury seller down in Miami-Dade needs to be much more competitive on price. And for everybody else in that main market, being realistic about your pricing is now the absolute key to getting those value-focused buyers in the door. So it really all comes down to one question. Which market are you actually in? Answering that one question is the key to figuring out your next move. So in the end, the headlines are both right and they're both wrong. South Florida isn't simply crashing, and it's not simply booming. It's somehow doing both at the same time. And that leaves us with the final question. In a market this divided, where does the real opportunity lie for you?